Welcome to Natural Born Talents. Today's video is about a special kind of egotist, the cult leader, and their followers.
Now, most of my videos are about auras, but without understanding ego, auras will have little meaning. The main reason for this is because egotists live in their own world, and they don't want you to believe anything outside of their tiny little consciousness. Now, having said that, today's video is going to focus on how to spot an egotist. This is very important when you are voting for someone into power. Ego always wants to get into power and destroy humanity. Especially these days, you have to be very, very careful on what you choose. Now, Natural Born Talents is not a political motivated channel. It's a self-healing channel.
However, egotists of this kind are very invasive in people's lives these days. In fact, most of your problems will come from another individual who is connected to one of these egotists or is the egotist themselves. There are many kinds of egotists, but this narcissistic cult leader-like egotist is the most dangerous of all. So here are some tips on how to spot them.
These people demand attention. They expect you to follow their way of doing things or their way of thinking. They expect you to be a sycophant to their own ego.
When you're not, they become very condescending to you and eventually hateful towards you.
Next is a dead giveaway. When you're in the middle of a conversation and the egotist pulls out a race card or bigotry card or something of the like, they are exposing themselves. They are hiding that they are racist or bigots or the like. When egotists do this, it's diversion. It's diverting away from something they cannot answer or cannot deal with. Therefore, they attack the listener in order to hide the truth. The sad thing is these issues are very real, but it's the way that the egotists manipulate guilt in others in order to achieve diversion from their own guilt. If you notice, this is why your conscious level will drop anytime you're near these people, because they're trying to pull you down into their way of thinking, their cult, their brainwashing. That's why you see so many people with their intelligence dropping these days, is because they're being used. When their ego starts to fail them, and they start to lose control over other people's lives, because egotists are only the people who will try to control other people's lives through lying and deception. These are the signs to look for. Every time someone consistently tells hateful lies about someone else, no matter who they are, is really talking about themselves. It's called projection or displacement. Egotists do this to hide their own shortcomings, to hide the truth. In other words, they want to bring you down so they can't see what they really are. Any wealthy or famous individual who constantly attacks another person who is successful is really exposing their envy. When the said wealthy or famous individual does this, it tells the world that they cheated to get to where they are, and they're envious of people with real talent. This is especially true for those who make those little hateful speeches to their sycophants about other successful people they don't like. This is to serve several purposes. The main one is to gather sympathy and comfort from their sycophants. This is like a drug to mask the truth. They cheated. They are lying. And they're not as much afraid of being caught and suffering the consequences as they are of facing the truth, that they themselves are of the lowest of humanity. That's why they always act holier than thou. That's why it's okay for me, but not for you. Acting holier than thou is a dead giveaway that they are masking their own worthlessness. They want to try to convince themselves that they are special, that they are better, righteous, and above everything else. This is why they live in denial. It's a defense mechanism. Egotists are great manipulators, but there's an old saying that will expose them every time. Listen not to what they say, but watch what they do. I've seen even egotists use this phrase, so be careful. Now, having said this, some people are working with ego, trying to get past it, trying to get around it. Those who have lost their battle, you can spot. When confronted, they always will have an excuse, a lie, diversion, a hostile reaction, or say nothing at all and ignore you. Those who are not egotists are willing to listen, but will defend themselves when something simply isn't true, and openly admit when something is. Egotists are like children. That is why some people call them the baby soul. If they don't get their way, they have a meltdown. When ego goes too far, they stop growing, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It is at this point when they are the most dangerous, because they don't care about other people. They will do anything to get power, money, a privileged life, an image. These people will carry out acts of cruelty, death, insanity. They no longer care because they are no longer human. If you put these people into power, you will suffer. So choose wisely. Think it through. Now, there's much more to say about ego. There are many kinds of egos. Be very careful when you judge someone. But you can kind of tell when they're no longer human, because they keep repeating the same lies and deception to hide the truth about their own failures. Or they simply say a lot, but do nothing that really helps others, but only helps themselves. Let's look at how this happens. A child is born. For some reason, usually the lack of security and a lack of love, the child latches onto ego for survival, becomes more and more demanding, becomes more manipulating, becomes more powerful over others to survive. Some grow past and want to make up for their mistakes. The egotist never does, because they believe that everything they've done in life was perfect. They were chosen. They are special. But in reality, they never grew past the little child that started out in this life. As pathetic as that may be, the ego is too brutal for words and too destructive to trust. The child is no longer there. It's now a weaponized baby soul, a complete monster, and it will attack anyone that threatens their selfish needs for cheap gratifications, and always will reject acts of love, or just take them and throw it back in your face. Be wary of the egotists. They care for no one, not even themselves in the end. Even the child that was once there senses that the path of ego is self-destructive. So when they start to go down, when they start to lose power, they scream the loudest. They have so-called meltdowns. And instead of moving on or letting go, they panic and they scramble to hold on to power, despite their eventual demise. That's why, like a child, when they eventually fall, they try to bring everyone down with them. The simple reason to this behavior is because they're being exposed and they want to avoid the truth at all costs, that they are the ones that are of the lowest of humanity. Thank you for listening. I wish everyone all the peace in the world. If you would like to support this channel, the details are listed below. Thanks again very much for listening. I hope to see you at the next video.